Welcome to the realest podcast you'll ever listen to. I'm LT.
I'm Kiki.
And we're here to talk blunt.
Black ladies, unequivocally North Tulsa. Let's talk blunt talk.
Hey, Kiki.
What's up, LT?
What do you want to talk blunt about today?
Today, we're going to talk blunt takes. Blunt takes are current events, things that are going on. You know, most of our shows are a little structured. We're going to let our hair down a little bit, kind of give people a peek into who we are, what we think to the hair. I mean, yeah, just a little. My good stuff. We got our producers with us today, Sean, Cammy, and Matt. And they're going to be feeding us some things, kind of trying to get us our opinion on stuff. And we're going to just kind of see how this did. We're going to make it do what it do. So
it did. Let's roll.
What's our first blunt take?
All right. So we're coming off of the Olympics. So much that happened this year in the Olympics. What were some sporting events you watched? What were your favorite parts of the Olympics? What were your overall thoughts of the Olympics?
So let me first start with saying I respect all the different athletes that compete. But oh my God, we just keep adding events. I was just like, what? We're doing what? What is this one? What? I mean, where does it stop?
It don't stop.
I mean, we're just adding and adding and adding. But my favorite was let me do it for you all.
Breakdancing? What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
Look over.
Track.
Girl.
Track star.
Okay. She was like, girl, please. I got this.
Yes, that was. I'm glad
that was who?
Sha'Carri
Richardson.
Yeah, that girl is bad.
That was a moment. I mean, really, when she did that and she looked over at old girl, she was like, girl, please don't play with me. And
See, I saw it as a bigger moment because of what happened to her last time. It was vindication. It was her way of saying, yes, she was looking at the opponent, but she was also looking at the Olympic committee and saying, I got my gold.
Yeah. Yeah. That was probably my favorite one. Of all was watching her do that. And then Lyles.
Oh, yes. No, Lyles, yeah.
Yes. That was sweet. I watched his documentary and
on Netflix.
Yes. And he said that it's like a marriage. And he said that the 400 was like his bride and he was dating the 100 and he conquered it. Now I hate that he did not get to do what was really what he's married to because he ended up getting sick. That was hard to watch him go down with COVID. So, but he conquered. He did get to, before he went down, he did get to conquer the one that he was told he would never be able to achieve. So he conquered what he was.
Well, then he was sick and came in third. I mean, the fact
that
medal. Like, okay, what happened if he hadn't had COVID?
Put me in the bed if I'm sick.
Yeah. My favorite, I don't know, surprising for me, I had a couple of the ones that you were kind of like, are we doing this? But I love watching skateboarding. I just think it's phenomenal what that sport is about.
See, that's one of those. I'm like, really? What are we doing?
It's so cool to watch people just embrace a sport like that. Also, pole vaulting, I think was extremely exciting this year. That was a sport that I think doesn't get enough love. Long jump was exciting this year. I mean, the athletes showed up and they showed out. They were ready from all countries. And,
the hurdles.
Those hurdles.
The hurdles.
Was that new this year where they had to like jump into the water or over the water?
I was just like, that one, I was like, what? Yes, that was
crazy.
But going back to the hurdles, I wish I could think of her name. I mean, like we had to roll the camera back and watch it. You never do this. She switched legs to turn into another gear.
I heard
it was, and like Like you couldn't really see it, but I would have never known she did it except for in the post interview. She said, I had to switch legs. And then she just like left, old girl. I was like, that was sweet. Like, I mean, like we had to slow the camera down and like, what, like, and we're like, yep, she switched. Like the last, she switched and she was like, she was gone.
That's knowing your body. I also like the diving competitions.
Mm-hmm.
I love those. I mean, they make something so scary look so just peaceful and serene when they go in the water. It's just like so quiet.
I don't think that's what they were thinking about, but
I think that it just looks. It's just like one of the beautiful things watching them go into that water and dive. I love that. The ladies showed up. The men showed up.
So there were a lot of new things introduced to the Olympics. One of them being breakdancing. Some of them, I was like, okay, I've never seen breakdancing like this, but okay, I'm open to it.
They made it like a big deal. Like, when like, oh, breakdancing's coming back. And I was like, all right, cool.
That's not.
That means that people know what they're doing. You know, and I see it from the internet. It didn't look that bad. And I'm watching the Olympics, and it was just like so boring.
Yeah.
It kind of fell flat. I think there were good intentions there, but I think the break dancing did fall a little flat.
I think it needs to come back.
I think they did cancel it for next year. Yeah, I think they already said that's a no.
For LA, a no for LA is what I heard. I think we have to address the elephant in the room and the bronze medal being taken away.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I don't necessarily want to talk about it, but I think hopefully in the end, from what I see, they've officially taken it, I think, but I don't know if they're going to somehow be able to still appeal or however it works with the Olympic Committee. But
they made a mess of that one.
Yeah, they did. Mm-hmm. They did. It wasn't, it just, that I think on a bad
I feel bad for both girls.
I was just going to say, I don't think anybody wins at this point because they've gone back and forth about, like, we will forever be like, okay, who really, won? So you were to place us with the elephant in the room, but where were you?
Well, this may be where we was going, or where you thought we were going. So we're going to LA for 2028, LA 28. And Snoop Dogg was our kind of host or our U.S. mascot for the Olympics this year.
Which I enjoyed thoroughly.
Yeah, it was entertaining. It brought some fun to the Olympics.
Flavor was in there too. I mean, they really did try to give it a little flavor this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, Snoop was in the house.
Snoop Dogg was paid $500,000 a day for 18 days at the Olympics.
But you know what? I'm not mad at him.
I know.
Because, I mean, he showed up and he pretty much performed and entertained.
He did what he
for 18 days.
Yeah. Well, and somebody...
I don't know how we chose him, but he showed up.
Well, and I have to think, somebody's like, he really reinvented himself. I said, he's always been Snoop Dogg. I think you have to know him as a rapper. I don't think he, in my opinion, he's been true to himself. Like when he busted out with this Simone Biles t-shirt, that's something you can see him doing. Yeah. And if you followed him with him and Martha on their shows, I think he's always, as much as he could, try to be true to himself. You may not think that the rapping has anything to do with who he is now, but it does. Make no mistake. If you go back and listen to the things that he was rapping about at that time, that was real. A lot of that is still relevant. As a young man, he experienced that and he told people about that. And for me, you can't separate, that Snoop Dogg is different from the Snoop. No, we're the same individual, baby. Because he laid down and he's showing you who he is now as an older individual.
Right. He's in a different era. Right. He's the same Snoop Dogg. He's just in a different era.
He's immature.
Yeah.
We all evolve and mature. I think that they selected him to do that, to bring his authentic self. They didn't want to polish, because that's what people continue to turn in for. Can you believe Snoop did? Like, and so, I think I don't think he reinvented himself. I think he brought his whole self.
I'm just saying, some people see that as, he's reinventing. I'm like, nah, he always been like that. He act like he did, but that's just
I can say he probably definitely brought the ratings. Like you said, people were tuning in to see what is Snoop Dogg gonna do today, what event he gonna be at watching.
What wardrobe is he gonna have on? Yeah. It was a lot of different things going on. So hats off. I don't think they paid him enough personally, but yeah.
Well, now I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there.
So Kiki said he needs to raise the price.
Exactly. In LA, you need to make more. That's home, and you're gonna really bring it. His check needs to be bigger.
So let's talk about, before we leave the Olympics, let's talk about the opening, because that's where I thought you were going with the controversy, is the opening. There was a lot going on in the opening.
Okay. I missed the opening, so.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the biggest controversy.
Opening.
Reenacted like the final supper or whatever.
Yeah, and I didn't, I mean, first of all, I didn't see that part of it, but even the pictures that was posted across social media, I would not have gone there with that picture. I would not have assumed that. But a lot of people got all offensive and around.
Oh, you're saying like the scene that everyone's making a fit over.
Yes.
You did not see that as the Last Supper.
I would not have saw that. Like,
Yeah, me
when
too.
I saw that picture, I didn't see Last Supper and think Last Supper. And so, I mean, like, I had to go back to it and like, what? And so then I've seen other people that, you know, said it was from the Greeks. So, I mean, I think that one was kind of, so when I think about the opening in general, even before that controversy came out, I just thought it was way too busy. I felt like it took away from, it was so busy, and I know it was trying to show the culture of the city, but I think it took away from that sacred part that the runners do of passing a torch, because you would see parts of that and then it would flip back to the entertainment. And then you see parts of that and it would flip back to the entertainment. So I felt like it took away from some of the key pieces of watching some of the passing of the torch. Because to me, that's such a sacred and intimate part of the Olympics. So to me, I thought it was a little too busy. But yeah, it was a lot of controversy over the Last Supper, or what they did with the Last Supper. But I can't necessarily go there or say that. I would never support anybody mocking that, because that was a very that road drive was busy. I mean, that was very busy. I think they were modeling originally, and it was busy. And so it wasn't really something. That's why I didn't see the last part of it, because it really wasn't something I wanted to see. But I can't stretch it far enough to say they were mocking God and they were doing Last Supper.
I can't go there during the first one. So
yeah.
So the last piece of the Olympics before we move on is these players or these athletes are not really often paid well for these events that they're doing. They train all year long, and you know, a lot of time is taken. They're here for 2 weeks at this event and not often paid well, especially if they don't end up getting any deals or anything like that. I know we mentioned Flavor Flav earlier. He is sponsoring the women's polo team. He stepped up and sponsored the women's polo team. So, what are kind of your thoughts around these athletes, and if they should be paid or if they should be paid more? I mean, I know it's a lot of athletes, but
well, I think the Olympics have always been a little unbalanced. You know, the popular sports, you know, the basketballs, the track, they always get a little bit more attention than some of the other sports that aren't as popular, like water polo. So there needs to be some equity across for players, because the reality is it takes them years. I mean, they were doing a special on the men's gymnastics, and they showed how, you know, if 3 or 4 years old, they start working with kids who are interested in how to do pole vault. And literally it's like almost a tether ball that they're kind of bouncing over to kind of get that muscle skill to do what they do. I remember coming up, men's gymnastics was all the rage for the US for years, and then it flipped to women's gymnastics. So I think there needs to be some equity. I personally, one of the things that crossed my mind was like, the Olympic Committee, especially over some of the things that came up. Like who are the people representing the countries? How long have they been there? Are these terms like congressional terms? Do they serve until they die? I think there's so much around the Olympics and the decision making that goes on that for me, I need to understand and research because there's a lot of unknown for me when it comes to who actually makes decisions and who doesn't. I know it's a small group of people that represent countries. But I'd like to see more transparency in that, not just for us as a public, but also, so that the athletes can have that transparency out there and feel like they're being represented fairly.
So I do agree with the equity piece. I'm never going to disagree with equity piece. For me, and I know this is not going to be the popular view, but for me, where did we lose the fact that it's an honor? You're representing your country. It's an honor. So is it really?
Because you got to put food on your table for your kids. It's an honor, yes, but let's face it. If you are an athlete 100% of the time, that's what you do. You have to put food on the table, and the time is out for people doing things for free.
And I didn't say for free.
Well, you said honor, and it's one thing to be honored, but you need to feed your family.
But if you're already an athlete and getting paid to get to that
a
point,
lot of people aren't though.
Not all of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not all of them. That's what I said. It depends. But I don't know. I still go back to parts of it.
It's a lot about that. To me, it goes into the era with the college football, with the college players and the institutions where the institution was getting all of their money and the players weren't getting anything. At the end of the day, not every athlete is LeBron James at the Olympics and have this big, this ability to, to generate this wealth. They're still training as hard as LeBron James. They're still in their field. They could be their LeBron James for water polo or whatever the sport is, but the pay is not there. And I'm not saying they should pay what he's making, but there should be some compensation for going out for your company, like the young lady who ran the 100-meter, who's from St. Lucia. They talked about her going back and, as a reward, her country is probably going to give her a home. They're probably going to make sure she has a job. Those types of things don't come easy in her country. Mm-hmm. So by representing and being honorable for her country, her reward is her country is then going to reward her. So for me, yes, there should be some type of compensation for these athletes who are putting their bodies on the line year over year because of they want to be the best, and the Olympic Committee should be able to help bring some equity to that.
And I agree with them being paid. I agree with equity. Like I said, I'm just going to leave it at like when we start to say this isn't high enough and we need this. We just got to go back to the fact that it is also an honor.
It is. I agree with that. But I think, too, it's like an unpaid internship. Yes, I need the experience, but most of your unpaid internships are going to be those folks who are probably already at below poverty or gone back to school for a particular reason or need. They're living on student loans, and they need to also be able to take care of themselves without generating more debt.
You always find a way to get there, don't you?
Always.
Always
find a way to get there. Fundamentally.
All right. One thing that we did not talk about, though, before we leave the Olympics, and we're going to move away from the Olympics, but we did not talk about the men's relay race.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. 25 years. I'm done. I think that was enough. We gonna look to LA. That's all I got to say. Carl Lewis made a statement, and I stand with whatever he said. We need to switch it up as a country. So I'm gonna leave it with Carl Lewis.
All right. So moving on, switching gears. Season 3 of Belair has just released recently.
Who watches that?
Exactly.
Thank you,
Exactly.
Sean. Next
I
month.
feel like you put it on the list because you want
Some,
person.
what did you say?
Well, no, I had thought-provoking questions around it, and maybe y'all have answered my questions. What do you think about TV reboots? Like,
Well, I was just
was this a bad?
Yes, it was. Sometimes you just gotta know when enough's enough, and leave those memories with us.
They made it too serious, right? Because like Fresh Prince was already kind of like wacky and had like a serious side. I feel like the one with Will Smith was like just right, just enough. Had the cast. They didn't need to go to no private school. They didn't need to.
Yeah, I
They
couldn't.
should have just left that where it
They should have
was.
left it alone. Yeah, and we've seen that happen before. I just think they should have left it alone. I mean, sometimes you got to know when enough is enough.
Agree.
I don't think it's nothing wrong with the show. I think it's the actors.
Oh.
Okay, so, but I'll go back to maybe we should have left it alone because, to your point, the actors are not. It's not, and I think that's what Sean was saying. It's not necessarily the same way that the show was originally. So it's taking it in directions that is just.
Yeah, so I think that was my issue with it when it first aired. I'm gonna be honest, the first and second season I didn't even watch. The third season, we're running out of things to watch on our streaming services. This season, I've looked at it from a different eye. The first and second season, I was trying to compare it to the original. Like, oh, like this isn't Will, this isn't Aunt Viv. These aren't the characters that we originally saw. So this season, it's a different eye, and I've looked at it as a different show. I'm not trying to compare it to the original now that it's season 3.
Well, I'll go back to the what about a reboot? I think for me, not every reboot is going to work. And I think the other thing you have to know about is we have a tendency to want to compare things to, and that may not be the intent of the producer. And so it loses translation with people who are expecting to see, everything be so similar or a continuation of where the show left off. Like I think about The Sopranos and them sitting in the booth, and that's how it ended. And now knowing the dynamics around The Sopranos and who's alive and who's not, if you were to reboot that, which they have, but they went back, not forward. I think there's a difference when you go back and bring a show up to and tell a story of this character before they became who they were, and you try to pick up a character in different ways and kind of twist and do different plot twists. So I think it really is just either it works or it doesn't.
So that's interesting that you say that because when you were talking, where my mind went to also, because it can be more than just shows. So you talk about reboots. Have you guys seen some of the clips or the videos from, I was about to say Boys to Men, not Boys to Men, New Edition?
No.
They're on tour. Like sometimes you just need to leave it alone. Bobby Brown's out of breath. I mean,
I ain't talking about nobody being out of breath. I really am not. Because me and Bobby ain't there for the same age. So I'm just saying.
Well, I'm just telling you, he ain't kicking down the door no more. And if he do,
well, you know what? People is still showing up. As long as people still gonna show up, he can still get on that stage.
Bobby. So speaking of television shows, though, for me, it's Abbott Elementary. If you want to laugh, that show right now is everything. You don't even know what I'm talking about.
No.
You need to.
I haven't picked it back up this season, but it's a good
It
show.
is
What is
hilarious. Abbott Elementary. It's on Hulu and ABC. Basically, the young it's a young Black woman who basically she has kind of created this genre around 80s public schools and the different scenarios. At the end of the day, there's always kind of a positive outlook, but it really is. That's what I miss about TV is the entertainment. I think for me, with all the true life dramas and the housewives and whatnot, I just remember as, watching TV younger being like entertained. And shows like Abbott Elementary, they entertain. It's funny
I'll have to look that one
on
up.
its own right.
Yeah.
And so I just love, that's what I look for, are shows that are, it's just good TV, good writing, good acting, good, just all around good TV.
Are there any shows or movies you would like to see rebooted?
I don't know. For me, I'm not really big on going back and, like I said,
I would
it
love to
has
see what this thing was doing right now.
not me.
I would.
Not me.
No, we're not gonna reboot Titanic.
I want to reboot.
No,
In
we're not
Living-
doing that. We're going to retire
And
it.
living color.
In Living Color?
Yeah, I
No.
said, yeah.
No,
We
No.
are living.
no. See, that's why, that right there is why we're not going to reboot it. That right there.
Bring
That
the
nonsense
game
is
back.
why we're not going to reboot it.
Bring it back.
Mm-mm.
I'm just saying, you asked. Yeah. It's several things. How shows end abruptly or whatever. I think there's always possibilities. What's interesting to me though is how we tend to get more and more into the reboot. I'm always interested when something new comes about.
For sure.
Yep.
Sean, Matt, y'all got any current events going on? You
Nah.
anything in the news pique your interest?
How do you guys feel about the lady from the WNBA that got transferred and she's pregnant?
Oh, I hadn't heard about that one.
She got kicked off the team or got traded because she got pregnant, and the coach was very mad at her because she's pregnant and was talking down on her, and so the coach has been very trying to clean it up and stuff like that.
I bet. If her
It's
doctor
a woman
gave,
coach too.
if the doctor gave her a clean bill of health to play,
So, yeah, I agree. I hadn't heard about this, so I'm going to have to go read about that one. But first of all, if there's nothing in the contract that restricts that, because come on, that's a part of life. And so don't trade me because I got pregnant. If I was good enough for you before, then I'm good. And like I said, once again, if there's nothing in the contract that says they can't, I'm sorry, I got a problem with that.
I think as long as she got a clearance from her doctor that she can still play, as long as she can play medically and safe, then
I think that could be lawsuit worthy. That's all I'm gonna say.
And yeah, I mean, and I think the bigger conversation is the stigma around women and what they can do when they're
Exactly.
pregnant.
I agree.
Exactly.
And I didn't want to. I knew Tanya was going to say something if I went there, but yes, that to me, you always, when you're pregnant in the workplace, people tend to want to make little jokes. They want to feel on your belly. They want to ask you if you well. I'm the same person I was before I
We're
got
talking
pregnant.
about the athlete.
I'm just saying. She said the stigmas of
I
being
understand.
pregnant.
But let's stick there. It ain't about you.
I wasn't making it about me. I was making it about pregnant women not being able to perform and getting called out in the workplace when they get pregnant or when they choose to breastfeed at work. It don't make you any different because now you go into a room to pump milk and folks look at you crazy.
Well, did you make a scene before you went?
I didn't breastfeed at work.
I'm not talking to you. I'm just saying. Sometimes that anyway. We're gonna walk away from that, but you have to respect that, and I believe that women should be treated fairly. But sometimes people do act up and make it a scene. Like, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I think on the bell curve, it's a low percentage. I think overall, when you look at the stigma
Agreed.
of women when they
agree.
get pregnant, there's just even especially for women athletes, I think that really impacts them.
I agree.
But even women, I've been having been an HR person, it happens in the workplace. Not necessarily getting called out, but it's like, oh my gosh, they're pregnant, so this means A, B, C,
Right.
and it's like, hold up, no,
Right.
unless a doctor says they can't perform a job, they're still able to perform. So why are we even going there? We don't even have a reason or cause for it.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing what women's bodies can do, and they're underestimated, especially when they're pregnant. I watched on Instagram, I follow a lady that does CrossFit, and I have watched her continue to do CrossFit, lifting heavy weights and
Wow.
birthed 2 kids. Continue,
Wow.
I mean, like a week or two before she gave birth, and she's still on Instagram training like it's a norm. It is a normal day for her, but like she was not pregnant. She was still training the same.
A woman actually made it to the finals pregnant for fencing.
Wow.
Oh, that's right. They did say that in the Olympics. Sure did.
So I think we're often underestimated in what our bodies can do.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go read about that one, because that one, like I said, that's one that probably needs a little bit more attention.
Yeah.
That's not okay. It's not okay. And to your point, she could probably go a lot further in the season than is expected. Hey,
I mean,
have a baby and come back and still be productive to your
we're
team.
breaking barriers.
Look what Serena Williams. I mean, she was right back on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's time. The more and more we open the door for women's sports, the more and more we're going to have to get comfortable watching women. And I think it's a comfort thing. People get on, oh, what if something happens? But, I think it's a woman's choice to continue based on feedback she's getting from her doctor.
Right. Well, so here's the thing. You would not, because I'm thinking, so when you talk about this, and you're right, and I want to go back, because you even talked about even in the regular workplace, even outside of sports. And so I started to think about, women in the C-suite. Well, if I got sick and went out, I could take that leave and come back. Or if a male counterpart got sick and went out, they could come back. What's the difference in taking that maternity leave and coming back?
Well, I think it's like Kimmy said earlier, just those stigmas that come with women and pregnancy, and women and the limitations that are put on women's bodies, particularly athletes. And so every day they're pushing the limits, and I think women will continue to push the limits.
So what you got next, Blunt?
So continue with women. Sorry, guys. Halle Berry just continues to amaze me, honestly. She just turned 58 this month. She just released a movie with Mark Wahlberg called Union Station on Netflix. Have y'all watched it? Yeah, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. It was cute.
It was cute, and it was nice to see her in it. I won't say different role, but she was kind of like sweet sour.
Yeah.
So it was good.
So I thought an interesting part of that is she does all of her stunts.
Yeah.
At 58 years old, Halle Berry is doing all of her stunts.
Man,
she had to push Mark to do his stunts. She was like, get up. If I'm doing these stunts, you get up here and do these stunts too.
Which goes back to the what we just talked about, which is that women is amazing, and we can do things that sometimes we aren't expected to be able to do.
Yeah.
The power of women.
So Halle Berry is also making noise outside of the box office. She is championing a menopause bill right now. She feels that there is not enough talk about menopause and what happens when you get there, resources to help you get through that situation once you're there and that is taking place.
100% agree.
Of course you do.
Well, I agree, because not just because I'm a dissenting voice of yours, but I agree because as a woman who is going through menopause, there's not a lot of information. And so
what would you like to know?
Well, first of all, understanding that it can start as early as 30 or 40, and you can start feeling symptomatic toward it. I had no clue. And then, like, how do you know when you're in menopause? My doctor finally, a PA, said, Kim, this is what we need to do. And so I think if she's championing it, it's so many, because a lot of, I appreciate the social media sites and the ladies on social media saying, it's one lady, her thing, she starts with, let's talk about menopause. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And that was Halle Berry's thing, is it's kept quiet. Nobody talks about it, or nobody was talking about it. And it's like one day it happens to you and okay, the doctor didn't give you any information.
But it's some of that generational though too, because if you think about it, like we're getting into we're getting more comfortable as a society talking about things that affect females, things that affect males, where we didn't previously. And so it was like, okay, let's talk about breastfeeding over here. Like we didn't talk about it. Now it's like we talk about it and we promote it. So I think that's just a part of how we're evolving as a culture, where previously it was like we needed to keep this like we can't talk about things that happen with female bodies or things that happen with male bodies. And so I think that's just a part of evolving in society. I don't think it's like a hidden secret. It's just one of those things we have to evolve and we haven't gotten there. But do we need to? Yes, because not only do we not talk about it, we don't always talk about the advantages and disadvantages. And so when you think about it in the past, women have made decisions and done things that, I mean, look how many years we thought every female needs to have a hysterectomy. It was promoted. You start having problems, you go have a hysterectomy. Now it's like that's not necessarily what you need to do. And we're trying to do everything to prevent you from having to have hysterectomies today. And so I think that's just more of evolving in society. And I think that can go into a whole nother segment of its own, because I believe it's also promoting preventative care. When you understand it and what's going to happen to your body and the consequences around making one decision versus the other. So I do think we have to get to talking about all the decisions that you make.
Yeah, and I think you being a clinician, you probably have more insight to it from a science perspective anyway, because I think some of that is the science has gotten us to where
Yes,
doctors aren't recommending hysterectomies just
exactly.
because a woman,
Right.
presents with
Still
certain
doing them now. Don't get me wrong. There
Yeah.
are reasons for it,
right.
but it's
There
just
are,
like
yeah.
it's like inducing labor. That used to be like a big thing. I mean, and doctors would just do it for the convenience. Now you've got to have a reason,
hmm
a justifiable reason, not because my doctor's going to be on vacation next week and we need to go ahead and get this over. And we laugh about that, but that was the truth of the matter. It
Yeah.
used to just be for convenience. Now we know better. Once again, I always say, when you know better, you do better. So I think we are evolving and realizing. And so to your point, or to Holly Berry's point, I do think it's something that needs to be talked about. But I think it's just we're evolving as a society and being more comfortable talking about that.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
having big stars talk about it helps mainstream it.
right?
Because Katharine Hepburn back in the day wasn't talking about menopause.
No, yeah,
But Halle Berry today is the equivalent of Katharine Hepburn. So I think it normalizes the topics when you have superstars or people who have a platform, either
exactly.
a Hollywood or social media or whatever your platform is. I think when you have people like her stepping out and saying, "Hey, let's bring this to the forefront for women," then it normalizes the conversation, and women feel more comfortable having it with their spouses, their doctors, their people who can help them deal with whatever it is they're going through.
Agreed.
And on that, LT,
It's
I think it's a wrap.
it's a wrap. That's blunt talk.
T-shirts,
So t-shirts,
hoodies,
support your girls Kiki and LT. Blunt talk.
link in bio. And if you want a hoodie for real, put it in the comment.